Good afternoon. Yeah, 6 bracelets. And I'm in the business of inspiration. My purpose with my company is to inspire others to do things differently when it comes to innovation, collaboration, and communication. And when I met Nelke, I said, oh, I'm so glad I can go to another PINC because this is perfect inspiration for me. If you're in the business of inspiring others, you have to inspire yourself. And PINC for me is like a bubble bath for the mind. So when I discussed with Nelke, what am I going to talk about, my dilemma is always, I'm interested in anything. And we tried to come up with a topic, and it was, how can we create order from chaos? Because that's what innovation is all about, kind of starting out big and then narrowing it down to a solution. But when I worked on this, I found that I'd rather talk more about chaos, so I'm sorry. By the way, secret societies, etc., ordo ab chaos, order from chaos, is the motto of the Masonic Lodge. Not that I'm a member, so I don't know about their secret handshakes or their rituals, but they try to have something to do with that. So actually, I think we shouldn't be afraid of chaos. Chaos is something that we have to live with, and we should embrace it, because there's nothing more constant than chaos or change in our lives. And I think a few of the speakers today have proven that point. So rather than being afraid of chaos and trying to put it into an order and putting it into a system, trying to get a grip on it, we should probably embrace it as our friend. So chaos is our friend would be my starting point for the next few minutes. Why do we want to embrace chaos? I think it's mainly because we don't have much of a choice. Nothing that we do today anymore in any of the areas we work in is very reliable, is it? Change, constant change, and quick change is what we see every day. And when I work with teams, I used to take the first few meetings and weeks to just get acceptance for change as being a constant, rather than saying, oh no, I planned for this and that, and now it's different again. This is a very Swiss thing, by the way. We don't like change. So I work with three topics: innovation, collaboration, and communication. And just to give you a little bit of a context, why or what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes, I'm the founder of The Brain Store. It's a company that creates ideas for companies, and today mainly teaches companies how to create great ideas. Like, what do you need to come up with a good idea and implement a good idea? I'm no longer with The Brain Store, or I'm still a partner, but I have started my own company, which focuses more on the other two topics on top of innovation, because I believe that when we have a great idea, in order to implement it, we need great collaboration and great communication. Otherwise, we're not able to do that. So I got more interested in the two other topics over the last 2 years. But whenever we do something, and I was thinking, like, what am I going to share with you? And I wanted to create something like this Instagram filter for you, like I see on my daughter's Instagram stream, like with these wisdoms, you know, that she shares with her friends. Never lose sight of, never lose whatever, your sense of wonder, stuff like that. So I recreated those little wisdoms for you, for my topic. I had a lot of fun doing that, I must admit. So when we start out trying to bring order into chaos, and especially when we start out looking for a great idea, I think first we have to make an assumption of what we're looking for. This sounds like a contradiction, but I've learned over the past 25 years that if we want to create a good idea, we have to go out and define what we're looking for. By the way, we had a lot of scientists here. That's exactly what scientists do. They say, let's define first what we're looking for, and then maybe we find something completely different, and that's fine. But if you don't know what your quest is, as we heard also this morning, you won't be able to find something. So having a clear vision about what you're looking for, a kind of briefing, a kind of compass, a kind of path that you're following, it's going to be hard to put any order into the chaos. So having a good question or a good basis for your quest is important. Then if you have your quest, if you know what you are looking for, it's very hard to go out with this big question in mind and to come up with a good solution. But I think we've also heard proof of that today, is you have to go about it in different ways, from different perspectives. Look at the problem from different angles. And so to eat an elephant, you have to cut it into small pieces. So where can you start? What tiny little problems can you look at that will help you solve the big problem? I think that will also put order into your chaos. At the Brainstorm, I co-created a process called the Idea Machine. And it's not here as an image, but you can go and look it up on the Brainstorm website. And the Idea Machine is a system or a process where you can actually look at all these little pieces and explore the little pieces of your problem and come up with a great solution. And to do that, to come up with a great solution based on your problem, it's important to embrace diversity. I think we have a very diverse group here this afternoon. When we do ideation projects with the Idea Machine, we invite a very diverse group of people. And I think it's also in the little description in my biographies, we invite people that are most unlikely to contribute something to this problem. We invite, for instance, teenagers, 12, 13-year-olds who are not working with the company, who have no clue about what their problem is, to contribute and to participate in this quest, because they will ask very interesting questions and they will come up with very unusual ideas, whereas the people from the company come up with the more of the same, more of the ideas that we already had. And so teenagers and people from other industries, people from other backgrounds are very valuable people to invite into your chaos, so to speak. The Idea Machine, to come up with ideas, has basically 4 parts. And if you go out here with these 4 process steps in mind and you try this out with your next project, you're going to be much more successful. So you have your little pieces of your problem, your big elephant cut into little pieces. First, you want to collect a lot of inspiration, a lot of thoughts. So I think a perfect example of doing this was Miles, just before me. He actually looked at the topic corduroy from the most absurd and funny, I'm sorry, not absurd, but from the most diverse and funny, for me, absurd, but ad absurdum, again, to quote the Latin teacher that I had, leading something to the absurd is a good exercise to look at a topic from various angles. So looking at corduroy from very, very different topics, like how to create a club, what could the club do, what are members going to wear, what are the rituals, etc. This is exactly what collecting is. Not just trying to find a solution, a perfect solution from your problem, but exploring it, playing with it, having fun with it. Once you have done that, you have a lot of material, you have a lot of stuff, and with this stuff, you can start combining. You can start creating specific solutions. You can start talking about the membership card and how it should look. And then, obviously, I think we've seen that as well in the wonderful presentation with the lamps and with the glass spheres, that you need to have some kind of reduction process, go to a certain point where you say, this is the one solution, or these are the 3 or 4 solutions that will work for my problem, and then you have to take a decision. The important thing about this process is that it's 4 steps, one after the other, and not all put into one giant brainstorming where while you're collecting, you're already deciding and you're already putting the scissors in your head to work. Once you start implementing your idea, it becomes even more tricky to work with the chaos, because having a great idea is one thing, but following through and actually implementing it is a completely different story. So one thing that I found out over the last 6 years is I borrowed a lot of inspiration from the Agile and Lean movement that has come up in software development. So rather than creating the perfect software, the perfect solution in months and months of work, creating a solution that then will already be outdated and not interesting for clients anymore, creating a small prototype in a week, and then getting feedback for that and go to the next cycle and developing it further and making it better is actually the way to go today to tame your chaos. So rather than implementing your idea big scale and planning for it for months and months, why don't you do a prototype even of an event or even of a service that you want to provide and improve it step by step? I think that's a very good way of working with today's chaos, is working in cycles. Another concept from Agile and Lean that I love very much is the notion of good enough. We all know that coming to the 100% of quality is a really hard thing. Achieving 80% is easy, fairly easy, but going to the 100% is really tough. And so sometimes you have to decide to go for the maybe 85 or 90% and not to be working on the perfection. Sometimes perfection is necessary, but often if we work in cycles and if we want to implement innovation fairly quickly, good enough is a good motto. Maybe not for a rocket that brings us to Mars, but I wouldn't like good enough there. But for many other things, it's true. Something else that I realized in my work in the topic of collaboration, and we've heard a little bit about this also before, is how do we collaborate as teams? How do we implement while everything around us changes every day? And one thing that I found is that it's very helpful to make our work visible for the people we work with. And I brought you a little prototype here. Who is familiar with the word Kanban? Okay, one or two, so not so many. So I've drawn a little prototype here. This is a little Kanban board. It's very simple. It shows what's to do, what I'm doing, and what's done. And as you can see in this system, you have a flow. So all the things I want to do, I have a little sticky here. I'm doing right now presenting at PINC, and I have done a few things. So I know what I'm focusing on, and I know what's coming next and what I've already achieved. And if I share this with a team, this is a very powerful way, one way of many, to visualize work. And it's extremely helpful to have something like that when you want to tame your chaos, because it's better than a task list, and it's better than an Excel file, for sure, to visualize what's going on and to be on the same page. Also, when you start implementing or when you want to adapt to change and to chaos, it's always important to start where you are. When I work with teams, they often tell me how they would like to work and how they would like to improve and how they would like to do things differently. And then I always ask them to just map out where they are now, how they work now, and to incrementally change that. Rather than being unhappy with who they are and what they do, to go step by step. So start where you are now, I think, is also a very good motto for dealing with chaos. As you can see in this little thing here, one crucial thing that we all do wrong, or most of us do wrong, and I'm part of it too, is that we have too many things going on at the same time. We, especially women, like to multitask because we can, or we think we can, but actually we can't. Sorry, I have to tell it to the guys. Also, the women can't multitask. But we are used to doing several things at the same time, which has the effect that we never finish things, or we don't finish things before we start new ones. And in collaboration, especially when you deal with chaos, it's important to be very mindful about what is going on right now and what will follow later. So a good motto is stop starting and start finishing. If I use my prototype again, I have a little 1 here in my doing column, which means that I'm just doing one thing at a time. What an unusual notion for a 21st century workforce, right? But if I've done it, I can move it here and I can take the next one. So I'm gonna get 10 or 20 things done in one day anyway, just not all at the same time. Multitasking, so having this column full with 100 things or 20 things or maybe even 5 is very expensive. Not just cost-wise, but also for our mental states and our happiness, or what was it called? Contentment, exactly. And there's a little exercise that I always do with teams. It's about task switching. So if you, for instance, if you list numbers and letters and, let's say, names, first names of people in sequence, so 1A, Nadja, 2B, Hans, etc., it will take you much longer than if you do these things parallel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and then the letters and then the names. So even with this small exercise, you can see that multitasking is very costly. Switching from one thing to the other, even if it's very simple, creates chaos. If we do things one at a time, we reduce chaos. So as a last reminder about this collaboration thing, it means limit your work in progress, limit the things you're doing at the same time, and you will be able to incorporate more chaos into your life, which we all have to do. What I always tell people when I work with teams is I'm not a big fan of rules and recipes and regulations, but each team and each person needs to make their own rules. I think the important thing is that we are aware of our own rules and that they are explicit. So if teams work together to collaborate, to implement innovation, they need to make sure that they know what their rules are and that they are in agreement. Then we have a self-organized team that really can work. For this, it's important to meet regularly. So the people you work with, meet them every day. Real good collaboration happens from coming together with people. It doesn't happen behind screens. It doesn't happen when we are remote. It happens when we meet. It can also be a Skype meeting if it's absolutely necessary, but it's better to be there in person. The real stuff is happening when we are spending time with other people. Because when we meet with other people, we have meaningful conversations about our work. We talk about the things. Maybe we stand in front of a board like this and we talk about what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing, and if maybe the priorities are changing, and if we're hiding behind our screens, behind our emails, behind our Facebooks, we don't have valuable conversations. And valuable conversations is what keeps great stuff going on and great ideas being implemented. This way, we can constantly improve the flow of our work. If we really embrace these principles, if we talk to each other, if we talk about the jobs, the work that we're doing, we can improve this flow and have a more satisfactory work life. If then something goes wrong, we can look for the root causes of the problems, try to find out what exactly went wrong, why did we fail, and not being afraid of failing. We've also heard this often today. Failing is part of the work, but we have to fail better every time. Maybe one of the most important things when we collaborate and when we want to implement innovation, have good communication, is to give more than you take. It's always better to do a little bit more than the other person and not expecting anything for that. But if everybody does that, what a great world would it be? I know that it's great to have a recipe sometimes, but I think it's better to create your own dish. We've heard before, we have heard from several people that they started doing things that they've never done before, like teaching. I'm a big fan of autodidactics. Like, we are too formal in our education. We're too formal in the way we learn things. We always have to attend the class. I don't think that's necessary. We can try out and experiment, because motivation and perseverance are more important than skill. It's about wanting to achieve something, wanting to change something that actually tames the chaos and not something else. So as a last thought, because time is up, experiment, try out new things, be curious, inspire yourself, and come back here so you get additional bracelets. Bye.